Here again with one more new video. In yesterday's lecture we have seen the electrical properties of the solid. We know that the electrical properties of the solid can be divided into three parts, that is the conductor, non-conductor and the semiconductor. We know that the conductivity of the electrical solids, so the properties of the solids can be measured in terms of the conductivity, right? So conductor means which can pass the electricity, non-conductor means which is a poor conductor of the heat and electricity, and semiconductor, they can pass the electricity but with a certain condition, if we increase the temperature or if we add the impurity to it. So yesterday we have seen this. Today we will see that how to increase the conductivity of the semiconductor, and we will also see the magnetic properties of the solid, right? So let's come here, let's see. Okay, so semiconductor and impurity, semiconductor and impurity, right? As I told you that the conductivity of a semiconductor can be increased by the addition of the impurity, right? So semiconductor conductivity can be increased by addition of impurity, right? And this addition of impurity is called as doping, right? So addition of an impurity is said to be the doping, right? So in this case we are going to see now how exactly the impurity can be added, right? For this we have to come to the periodic table. Now let's come to the periodic table. In the periodic table we'll go towards the p block elements. So you know from where does the p block element starts? P block element starts from the group 13, right? In the group 13, boron, aluminium, gallium, indium, thallium, right? So this is our group 13. Group 14 starts from carbon, silicon, germanium, tin, Pb. Then group 15, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony and bismuth, right? Then group 16 will be oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium. Group 17, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine and astatine, right? And group 18 you all know, that is the inert gases, right? They are the inert gases, that is the neon, argon, krypton, xenon and radon, right? So we are not going to look much on this. Why we are not going to look? Because they contain the 8 number of electrons in their outermost shell. We say that any particular element which contains the 8 number of electrons, it follows the octet rule, right? So that according to that octet rule, that particular element will not undergo any kind of a reaction, right? So in this case we are going to focus mainly on these three groups. See, group number 13, group number 14 and group number 15, right? So here in this case, group number 13, we can see that in their outermost shell there are a total number of 3 electrons. In group 13 it has a 3 electrons in its outermost shell. Group number 14, it contains the 4 electron in its outermost shell, and group number 15 contains the 5 electron in its outermost shell, right? So here we can see with an example. For example, let's take aluminium. Aluminium has the atomic number 13. So 283. See, the outermost valence shell contains the 3 electrons. Then we can take the example of silicon. Silicon contains the 14, atomic number 284. Then comes the phosphorus in the group 15, atomic number 15, 285, right? I hope that you are understanding this, right? So 3 electrons, 4 electrons and 5 electrons they are containing in their last shell or the valence shell. That is why we say that they contain this particular group 13, 14, 15. They act as a very good semiconductor. But out of this, silicon and germanium, they are the very good semiconductors, right? So for this semiconductor, if we want to increase their conductivity, we have to add two kinds of impurity. Now what are those two kinds of impurity? Impurity number one, trivalent impurity. Impurity number two, pentavalent impurity. Right? So two impurities are there, trivalent impurity and pentavalent. Now what does the trivalent means? See, trivalent means containing the 3 electron in its outermost shell. See, aluminium contains the 3 electron, so we can use the aluminium, right? Then pentavalent impurity, which pentavalent we can use? We can use phosphorus, also we can use arsenic. Let's take the example of arsenic. Arsenic atomic number 33, right? And then 2, 8, 18 and 5, right? You know how the filling of the electrons is done in the shell. How the filling is done? 2, 8, 18 and 32 number of electrons. This is how the electrons are filled in the system. पहले shell में कितने जाएंगे? 2 electron. दूसरे shell में 8. Third shell 18. Fourth shell 32. So here as we are having a 33 electrons. So 2, 8, 18, 5. So here you can see that this can work as the pentavalent impurity, right? So here we are going to take this aluminium and arsenic in the case of increasing the conductivity of the silicon. So let's take here, let's explain how to increase the impurity. So I'll draw one more diagram so you will come to know. Now let's talk about the silicon. If you want to increase the conductivity of a silicon, we know how much, what is the atomic number of silicon? 14, right? So in this case, 2, 8, 4 contains the 4 number of electron in its outermost shell. So it is going to form a 4 bonds. Are you understanding it? It contains the 4 electron in its valence shell. So it will form a 4 bonds. So one silicon forming a 4 bond. Similarly, you will see other silicons also forming the same kind of a bond, right? Right? I hope that you are understanding. Just look here. One silicon, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more silicon. See, single silicon, 1, 2, 3, 4. This silicon, 1, 2, 3, 4. This silicon, 1, 2, 3, 4. So each silicon is forming the valency of a 4. It is forming the 4 bonds, right? Now here in this case, we are supposed to add trivalent and pentavalent impurity, right? So what we are going to add here, we are going to add trivalent impurity as aluminium, right? 2, 8, 3. Aluminium contains the 3 electrons. So let's see here what happens when you add a pentavalent, trivalent impurity. So here we are going to add the aluminium, right? As we add the aluminium, what will happen? Aluminium contains only 3 electrons in its outermost shell, right? So how many number of bonds will be formed? 1, 2, 3, and the 4th bond will not be formed. See, this electron will be of silicon, 1, 2, 3, and silicon has the 1 extra electron, so it will remain in the system here. It will not form a bond. Aluminium contains only 3 electrons, so 1, 2, 3, and there will be a big hole over here. And this hole is nothing but called as the positive hole, right? Or they are also called as the P type of a semiconductor. P type of a semiconductor. I hope that you are understanding it. Okay, so this is about the P type of a semiconductor. Now let's add the pentavalent impurity. Now for adding the pentavalent impurity, I'll take the arsenic, right? Now what is the, see, arsenic has the atomic number 33, 2, 8, 18 and 5. It contains the 5 electron in its outermost shell. So the valency is 5. How many number of bonds it can form? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And one more is remaining. That will be acting as the electron. Right? right? This will be acting as the electron, and this electron will start moving in the system, and this particular electron, when moves in the system, we say that it will pass the electric current, right? So due to the addition of this particular impurities, we can say the conductivity of the semiconductor can get increased, right? Now what happens when it moves? It will generate the electricity, and such kind of a semiconductor is said to be N type of a semiconductor. N type of semiconductor, right? I hope that you have understood what is the N type, what is the P type of a semiconductor, what is the positive hole, what is the negative electron, and what is the role of negative electron in this semiconductor, right? Okay, now let's move further. Our next topic of discussion will be magnetic properties of a solid, right? It is also a very important question, and many a times it has been asked in your board exam, right? So note down magnetic properties of solid. In magnetic properties of a solid can be classified into 5 types. See, that is diamagnetic, then paramagnetic, then ferromagnetic, then antiferromagnetic, and then last one ferrimagnetic. Last one will be ferrimagnetic, right? Diamagnetic, paramagnetic, ferromagnetic, antiferromagnetic, and ferrimagnetic, right? So let's understand one by one what is this diamagnetic, paramagnetic, ferro, anti, and ferri. So number one, I'll talk about the diamagnetic, right? We'll continue. What is the diamagnetic? Diamagnetic contains no unpaired electron. No unpaired electrons. That means there is no pairing of an electron present, no unpaired electron present in the system. That is said to be the diamagnetic solid, right? Then we can say that they strongly cause repulsion in magnetic field, right? So what is the case? It does not contain the unpaired electron, then they strongly cause a repulsion in the magnetic field. Now let's say that this is the magnetic field, right? This is the magnetic field, and if you place a diamagnetic material, so what will happen? This diamagnetic material will start repelling from the magnetic field, right? So this is what happens when you place a diamagnetic material in the particular magnetic field, right? So I hope that you have understood this. Now here what can be an example? NaCl is the example, then V2O5 is the example. So these two examples can be given for the diamagnetic material. I hope that you have understood what is a diamagnetic. Again I'll repeat, it does not contain the unpaired electrons, and they strongly cause the repulsion in the magnetic field as explained by this diagram. Then examples are NaCl and V2O5. Okay, let's move further. Let's understand the paramagnetic. Now what happens in the case of paramagnetic? In the case of paramagnetic, it contains at least one unpaired electron, right? ये मैग्नेटिक्स ऐसे तरह के मैग्नेटिक्स है जिसमें at least there is a presence of one unpaired electron, right? Then they are said to be the paramagnetics. Then they strongly attract magnetic field, right? They have a very, very strong attraction for the magnetic field. If we look at the diamagnetic, they have a strong repulsion. But if we look at the paramagnetic, they have a very, very strong attraction for the magnetic field, right? So both are opposite in a nature. Now here in this case, let's say this is the magnetic field which is applied. Then, and if we have placed the paramagnetic material in this case, so what will happen? This will get attracted towards the paramagnetic material, right? And even the one which is going from the outside will also get attracted, right? So that is why we say that paramagnetic material have a very, very strong attraction for the particular magnetic field, right? I hope that you have understood this. Okay, now the examples are very, very important in this case. Try to understand. So example for the paramagnetic will be Fe plus 3 and Cu2 plus, right? Now let's take the example of Fe plus 3. In Fe plus 3, we know that Fe has the atomic number of 26, right? So what will be the electronic configuration? Electronic configuration will be 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, then 3s2, 3p6, 4s2 and 3d6. Just count the total number of electrons. See, 6, 4, 10, 10 and 8, 18, 18 and 2, 20 and 26, right? So see here in this case, as you can see that 4s subshell has been filled first and then the 3d subshell has been filled. Why this has happened so? Now, this is a very, very important question. The question is asked why 4s subshell is filled first then 3D. मतलब 3D से पहले 4s कैसा fill हो गया? Right? This is the big question. Now you know, last year we had learned the principle called as the Abbaus principle. Right? What does the Abbaus principle says? According to the Abbaus principle, 4s shell has a lower energy compared to the 3D shell. So the electron will go into a 4s shell and then the electron will go into a 3D shell. That is why what happens here is the 2 electrons are first entering into a 4s shell and then the remaining 6 electrons are going into a 3D shell. We know that 3D shell, D shell contains it can occupy maximum 10 number of electrons, but here it is occupying 6 electrons, right? Because the 2 electrons are already entered into a 4s shell, right? I hope that this doubt is cleared in your mind, right? Okay, now let's talk about the Fe plus 3. So what happens in the Fe plus 3? See, leave about this configuration. Only look for this configuration. Come little bit closer. See, look at for this configuration 4s2 3d6. This is very, very important. That is said to be the penultimate shell. Penultimate shell. This is very important, right? So we will take this. What happens in this case? For Fe, we have 3d6 4s2, right? Fe gets converted into Fe plus 3. So what happens? Conversion from Fe to Fe plus 3 means that the 3 electrons are being given out, right? Because it is developing a plus 3 charge. As plus 3 is developing, that means 3 electrons are given by the Fe. So here 2 electrons will be given from 4s and 1 electron will be given from the 3D. So what will be the configuration now for Fe plus 3? It will be 3D5, right? Did you understand? See, the configuration for Fe was 3D6 4s2. When the 3 electrons were given out, it got converted into Fe plus 3, right? As soon as 3 electrons were gone, 2 electrons from 4s and 1 electron from 3D. So the configuration got changed from 3d6 4s2 to 3d5. Now let's draw the 3d5. What happens in the 3d5? 1, 2, 3, 4. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, you can see here, there are all unpaired electrons. They all have a same symmetry. They all have a same energy. So here in this case, we can say that Fe will behave as the paramagnetic material, right? Okay. Now Let's talk about the second example of this, copper. This is also very, very important. Now talking about the copper, copper gets converted from Cu to Cu plus 2, right? So what is the atomic number of the copper? Copper atomic number is 29, right? Copper atomic 29 means electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6. Now here the configuration should look like 3d9 and 4s2, right? You think that the configuration might be like this. As I told you that the 4s will fill first and then it will go for the 3d9. But let me tell you, my dear students, that this particular thing is not applicable for the copper. Why it is not applicable for the copper? Just now I told that 4s will get filled first and then it will go into a 3d. But what is happening in this case? The opposite is happening, that is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 3d10 and 4s1. So this is the configuration. This is not the configuration. Now why this happens? As I told you that first the electron will go into a 4s subshell and then it will go into a 3d subshell, because 4s is a lower in energy, 3d is the higher in energy. But apart from that, every material in this particular universe tries to attain the maximum stability. And same thing happens with the electrons also. It will try to attain its stability, right? So how they can become a stable? There is a condition for becoming a stable. Condition number 1. They should be fully filled or they should be half filled, right? See, remember, when the orbitals are stable, when they are either fully filled or when they are either half filled. But if they are partially filled, that means they are unstable. See, सारा सब कुछ जाके यहाँ पे ही रुकता है, stability. Every element in the periodic table, you can see they are looking for the stability of themselves, right? So here in this case we are saying that the partially filled particular orbital is unstable, fully filled is stable and half filled is stable. Now let's talk about the fully filled. How to look at the fully filled orbital? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, this is fully filled orbital, right? All containing the one upward spin, one downward spin. They all are having the same symmetry. They all are having the same energy, right? So this is stable. Now let's talk about the half filled.